Hey guys, my name is Adrian, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing another My Week in Books video. So I'm going to be letting you know what I've been reading this week, how I've been enjoying it, and what I'm looking forward to next as well. It is going to be a little bit of a short one today because I've not done as much reading this week as I would have liked to, and lots of you will find this funny. The reason is that, well, life has gone top of me firstly. But secondly, I've been spending far too much time building my fantasy football team. So anyone who's into their fantasy football, you can laugh at me for how many times I've changed my team this week before the Premier League season starts. But yeah, let's jump straight into what I have been reading. So what I was finishing off from last week, I was talking about Emperor, the Gods of War by Connor Gordon. This is book 4 of the Emperor series. And amusingly, at the end of last week's video, I said that obviously I knew where this was going because I know a little bit about history, but actually Connor Gordon has very much surprised me with where we ended up in book 4, going into book 5, where he's taken us in the timeline, and I did quite enjoy that. Having thought about it a little bit more, it makes a lot of sense, but I didn't necessarily clock that as I was reading through, so it's interesting that we are where we are at this point. I did enjoy book 4 a lot. It was a 4-star read for me, and I'm very much looking to jump into book 5 as soon as possible. So yeah, absolutely really enjoying the series. As I've said many times before, very solid historical fiction. If you like your Roman history and you want a fictionalized account of some of the huge things that happened during the life of Julius Caesar, this is definitely a series for you to have a look at. The other book I was reading coming into this week was Guards by Terry Pratchett. As I've said before, this is my 3rd Discworld novel, and I'm very much enjoying it more than I did Mort or Reaper Man. I will say I have not read as much of this as I would have liked to this week. I've only read another 100 pages or so I'm only up over the 50% mark. So yeah, definitely not been going through this as quickly as I would have liked, just because I've not been reading as much this week. And actually the other things I've been reading have been drawing my attention a little bit. I still definitely like Guards. It's definitely my favourite of Pratchett's works I've read so far, and I'm really looking forward to see how it concludes. But let's go on to some of the other things I've been distracted by with my reading this week. So I have read a couple of short stories. So I've read John Gwynne's It's Better to Live Than to Die, which is set in the Banished Lands before The Faithful and the Fallen, following one of the characters from that, following Camlin, in fact. For anyone who has read that series, and we're following Camlin before the events of Malice. It was a really nice little short story, nothing mind-blowing, but just a good story following some antagonists, and yeah, very interesting, worth my time, I think, absolutely. As well as that, I picked up The Fox and the Bowman by Sebastian de Castell. This is a short story not set in any of his other worlds, sort of set in a real world historical era based in Britain, and it is following a conversation between a bowman, someone who is an archer, and then someone who clearly has some form of magic. It's sold as a story of archery and magic, and I think it does that pretty well, with some nice interesting references to real world history as well. Definitely worth a read. It's a very short one, only take you an hour or so to read, I would imagine, but yeah, a really nice little short story that was definitely worth the read. As well as those, I have also been listening to An Empire in Black and Gold by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is following along with the read along for the Library of Alexandria. Currently I'm about 17 chapters in, so I think that roughly equates to maybe 40% of the book. I'm enjoying it a lot. I think the world is very interesting. I like the setup of the different kingdoms. Humanity has some sort of subspecies almost based on insects of our real world, and some of those insects' abilities and the way they live sort of figures into how these humans work. So they're not human in our classical sense, but they would all consider each other humans pretty much, and I'm very much enjoying it. It's a story about a war that is coming and an empire that is expanding, and someone who is standing up, knowing that this is coming, and trying to warn people, trying to stop the war that is coming, or at least have one side ready for the war that is coming. And I'm really enjoying it. I think that the character work is interesting. Some of the characters are a little bland, but some of them are much more interesting, and I do like the magic system, so to speak. So there is definitely in-world magic, so stuff that the characters don't understand, and then there is their art, which is sort of related to what species of insect they're related to, and that is very much not classed as in world magic. They definitely see that as just a piece of nature, a piece of what it is to be human, but for us that obviously has very magical connotations towards it, and I actually think that is a very interesting line to walk. I do think that the world is interesting, and I do hope that it continues to be. I hope these characters continue to grow, because although it's not my favourite book ever at the moment, I can definitely see where this series could grow and how it could improve and get better. So definitely enjoying An Empire in Black and Gold as the first book of the Shadows of the Apt series. So that's what I've been reading this week. Unfortunately not too much. Next week I will hopefully be finishing off Guards, finishing off An Empire in Black and Gold, and then I'll be looking to probably kick on with my Dresden reread. I'll be on to book 6, Blood Rights, so hopefully I'll be on to that next week, amongst maybe a few other things. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Click like if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys again soon.